Already causing me problems. What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard the Soul Train. Hey, all right. We're slowly starting to get this. All right. Bear with me, everybody. I got to go through and get all this fixed real quick. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome aboard the Soul Train. This is going to be a special edition here. I got my friend Paul. What was it I called you on the radio the other day? It was not the Hammer. What was it? The Tiger. Paul, the Hammer Outlaw, or the Tiger. If you are curious what I'm talking about, if you tune in over here to turfsupradio.com Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., you'll see exactly what's going on over there. It's a good time to say the least. I want to make sure. Hey, Paul, go ahead and say a few things to make sure everybody can hear me, and everybody in the chat, let me know if you can hear Paul.
Testing 1 2 3 4 8. Testing. Does this work? Can you hear me?
I think that's good enough for a start. So we'll see. Let's let this catch up here for a little while, and see anyway how it ends up going. Big thank you, Kate. You honestly, man, you ain't got to do all that. Somebody's asking where's dark mode. I don't know what that is. So anyway, the way this is going, I can tell you right now, the YouTube alerts I have set up to go and whatnot just are not functioning correctly. So who cares? I'll do one more refresh. Who cares? I'll never be able to get it figured out. Also in this a bit quiet. Okay, they said yes, a bit quiet, but they can hear you. There's nothing I can do for Paul's volume, so it kind of is what it is. So
I'll talk loud.
and yeah. When you talk, you're gonna have to scream. For those of y'all that are tuning in for the first time, the way this works, it is question and answer format, meaning you ask questions, we provide answers. Paul's a good friend of mine and manages turf in up there in North Carolina, Rocky Mount area, wherever the hell that is. It might as well be in the middle of Mexico for all I know. I have no idea. And of course, I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. So, I'd say our primary focus is in the transition zone, but we've at least been around this long enough, and we've been presented with enough interesting different scenarios that we can kind of work our way around. Paul, I got to ask, what kind of cigar are you drinking, smoking tonight?
This is a Monte Cristo.
Attaboy. Where'd you get that one?
I'm not sure. This might have been one of the ones you gave me at GIE. I don't even remember.
No kidding? Man.
Yeah, might have been.
How about them apples?
My favorite cigars are free cigars, generally.
That's right. Does that explain your affinity for Miller Lite as well?
No, I have to. I don't have anybody giving me that. But it's the nectar of the gods, man. Come on.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, it doesn't have any cherry flavor to
it. Pineapple, passion fruit, you name it. My big thing right now are the White Claws anyway. So I've been all over those.
Yeah, those things come with a coupon for a box of tampons.
All right, for those of y'all watching, again, question and format answer, meaning you provide questions, we will answer it to the best of our ability. Just understand we are fallible. We are humans. We do make mistakes. So understand that at some point throughout the duration of this, we may say something incorrectly, and I promise we don't do it intentionally. It's just one of those things that, it happens, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It just happens. So we'll do the absolute best we can. I can't make any promises. That's all. What is happening here? I don't know why this isn't doing it. Big thank you to Kyle Ben. What's going on, man? How are you, good sir? I'll give you a round of applause for that. Get the super chats coming in. Somebody said you're funny, Paul. We all know that. Ain't funny looking.
I can't even come close to seeing the chat because it's like microscopic on my screen.
So I know, and
you just ask me questions when you need to.
I will. And for those of y'all watching too, what y'all don't understand, you've never seen Paul's phone, but it is the funniest damn thing you've ever seen. He blows up the size of the text on his text messages so big that he can only get like 2 or 3 letters on a screen at a time. I mean, it's just completely overblown. So he can't see a damn thing. Have you thought about getting glasses besides readers?
Well, readers is all I really need. If I put on readers, I can read stuff fine. It's just I can see far off. Great. Stuff close up is a mystery. And it's getting worse.
Yeah, y'all, it is hilarious. I mean, I've never seen, a font that big on a cell phone. In fact, I think he has to add some sort of special application or something, use that technological genius ability in order to get it to get that damn big, because it is just enormous. My goodness.
You choose the biggest font and then you zoom it in a little bit. Well, a lot.
You need a screen reader that'll just read it to you.
How you work that?
Okay. Enough picking on Paul here. All right, Paul, let me roll up here and run through a couple of these. I want to give a big shout out to the first twice, because the first time I put this out, I had to go back and delete it. But the first was Izzy the Lawn Addict. Thank you for your dedication. One of the first ones I saw that came in was, can tenacity, what's up, it's Lawn and Poppin'? Can tenacity be applied with Pylex for bent grass and Bermuda control in tall fescue, combining both tenacity and Pylex? I'm going to say, yeah, I don't see any issue with it. I can't say I've ever done that specifically, but they're both same mode of action. They both have pretty high efficacy on bent grass at rates labeled for Bermuda control. So I'm not really seeing a whole reason why you can't do that. Paul, you got any insight on that I don't?
Have you ever sprayed tenacity on bent grass?
Turns it white.
It turns it white, then it turns it brown, and you think it's dead, and then it comes back better than it ever was. I have a yard that was about 50-50 bent grass and fescue, and in the fall I went and I hammered it down with some tenacity, and it murdered it. It just murdered it. I thought, oh wow, I got it. And then I saw the homeowner in church, and he was like, hey man, what happened to that grass that I had in the backyard, that different kind of grass? I was like, hey, I'm getting that stuff out of the way. He said, no, I like that. And I was like, oh man, it's too late. But in about 3 weeks, that stuff was back with a vengeance, and it's better than it ever was.
Yeah, and really, bent grass control is just difficult. Realistically, if you have it, you probably want to go ahead and renovate it. I've heard the same with Pylex too, of getting out there and making an application of Pylex, is that you're going to white it out and just not get that effective control. In fact, I've seen a little bit of it on some lakefront properties that got a Pylex and triclopyr application, and I can say without a doubt, it dinged it pretty good, but I do not recall at all about any top level control there. So bee fly, what I would probably end up doing is just renovating out that bent grass and save your and get your Bermuda out with it as well. Make it just a 1-2 punch. Be done with it. Spray it all out. Glyphosate it all out, and you'll be good to go. Let's see. Second here, man. Paul, the chat is on fire right now, and nobody, everybody, everybody's being nice to you too. Oh, but my wife's coming in here too. She said, "Hey, Paul."
Hi, Asami.
he said, "Hey, Asami." Okay. John A said, "I had a case of." There's my son too. I had a case of Pythium, and I did 2 applications of mefenoxam and propiconazole on an 11-day interval. My grass is now completely dead. Did I overdo it? If you did 2 applications of mefenoxam and propiconazole on an 11-day interval, one, that application interval is way too close together, unless your rate dictated it. And if your grass is completely dead, it's probably not completely dead, but more than likely it's an over application of propiconazole. If I had to guess, if you're dealing with Pythium, you're also dealing with high temperatures, and propiconazole is going to be sensitive to high temperatures. So applying propiconazole at max label rate at an 11-day interval at high temperature, to me, sounds like it is a pretty significant issue that is taking place there. Paul, I don't know how much mefenoxam you spray, but I've never seen any death from the turf from spraying mefenoxam.
It's the propiconazole, but propiconazole is brutal at full rate in the heat on turf.
Yeah, that is especially at an 11-day interval. I've never sprayed propiconazole on an 11-day interval intentionally to track and see what happens, but it's a DMI, and DMIs, especially propiconazole, has growth regulatory effects, and so I'd say you probably dinged it pretty good. And I'll give you an example here, John A. I've done it before where I sprayed some propiconazole at a max rate on some tall fescue at many degrees over 90 in peak afternoon on some tall fescue that had a little bit of rust in it. And I ended up smoking it down to the ground. Now, it didn't fully kill it. It did not kill it all the way, but it sure did look like it was deader than hell. So I don't think it's just fully dead, but I'm pretty sure you zapped the absolute fire out of it with the propiconazole in combination with your mefenoxam.
Yeah, I've absolutely got away from applying the full rate of propiconazole in any application, really. We've been mixing the azoxystrobin and the propiconazole at low label rates, and that's not as hard on the turf. That full rate of propiconazole, when you were just applying that and coming back, in a month and applying the azoxystrobin, that propiconazole application would leave you looking beat up for about 2 weeks, and I didn't enjoy that application at all.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter the turf type you're dealing with, whether it's Bermuda grass or tall fescue, whatever the case may be. It's pretty non-selective, and as far as turf not really liking those high rates when it's hot outside.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Somebody said, when will more Grass Factor episodes be uploaded to iTunes for the Turf's Up radio show? It's coming, I promise. As soon as I get a little time to do it, Brian, I will get it done. Zen said, okay, Matt, when does Bermuda typically green up around here in Knoxville? My backyard, Ken, is, I'm here in Knoxville. My backyard is Bermuda grass. This year, it started to green up in February and then got zapped again in March and zapped again in April and then zapped again in May. May 8th was the last frost I ended up having on my yard here. And so it took until the end of May really to start to come on. And then my goal by then was to see if I could take it from, I made my first real application on it like May 14th or something like that. I had let it go, and I got it back to to real height, real low height of cut by it took me about 40 days or so, 30 days to get it there. So realistically, on a normal year, usually May 1st, you're rocking and rolling. On this year, it was a little bit later due to the frost we had on May 8th. When does it usually kick into gear for you, Paul?
Usually by May. I mean, we're in good shape. This year, hell, we were still trying to get them right by 4th of July. I mean, I'm not even kidding. It was a struggle. The warm season grasses we had a rough spring and early summer with the warm season grasses between the large patch and some of the Asian grasses like the centipede and stuff, and just the quick they were coming out screaming in February, and then it frosted and put the brakes on them. Then they started coming out a little bit again. It frosted again on them, a hard freeze, and I mean this was a struggle. But they're singing now. They're all up and going, but it took a while this year.
Somebody said, as an applicator with fungicide products, did you personally run? I had a plethora I kept on the truck at all times. It depended on what I was spraying. If it was turf, I sprayed a lot of azoxystrobin. I sprayed a lot of propiconazole. I sprayed a lot of Cleary's. I've sprayed a lot of Eagle. A lot of Fame. A lot of what's the other one? A lot of Armada. Basically whatever I could get the best deal on. I would put together some sort of tank mix using that. So that was primarily it. And then for trees and shrubs, I sprayed a lot of Balaton. I've sprayed a lot of chlorothalonil. I've sprayed a lot of Mancozeb, those fun ones. And I usually kept like 1 gallon of mefenoxam on my truck as well. Paul, what do you typically run?
The azoxystrobin, propiconazole, Eagle, Clary's, things like that.
Yeah, in residential lawns, you're kind of limited in just how tricky you can get with it. And then when you really want to start to diversify with some different products, one, you lose your residential label, or two, the cost becomes so prohibitive. I'd love to go out with Xterra, Stress Guard, and Lexicon with every application, but I don't have the money, and my services never did command getting to be able to use $400, $500, $600 an acre type products. So that's a tough sell to a customer when your material cost is $400 alone. Plus you got to make a profit on it, and the time it's going to take you to do all that and all that fun stuff. So you may be $1,200 an acre just to show up to spray that yard by the time it's all said and done. And that is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. You try not to sell out of your own pocketbook. I know personally, I wouldn't pay $1,200 for a fungicide application, but and they say you shouldn't sell out of your own pocketbook. But I mean, still, $1,200 is $1,200. That's a lot of damn money,
I did that Affirm application with azoxystrobin and propiconazole on a few yards. That was a little spendy, but I need to go back and check on the results before I know if it was worth it.
Yeah, and Affirm is a NuFarm product. Is that right?
That's correct. And
did they give you a rough idea of what that residual would be for that product?
They did, and I don't remember.
I'm not familiar with it. It has one of those active ingredients I haven't seen a whole lot of. In fact, I was looking up the mode of action, and it's not one of your typical modes. So I think there's still a lot to learn about that product specifically.
Yeah, it looked interesting, and Greg Roman said it worked. So he told me why, but I forgot already.
Vito Gassi says, "Hey guys, using 818 on my fescue for the summer for the first time. What should I use come fall?" Vito, depends on what you're doing. If you're overseeding, I'm assuming you have cool season grass. If you're using 818 in the summer, oh yeah, he's got fescue. It all depends on what you're doing here. So probably for fall, if you're seeding, I'd say use X-Start, and then after you seed, use Carbon X. I mean, you can get tricky with it if you got phosphorus restrictions. You know, you could go with something like X soil at the time of seeding, and then Carbon X in the fall after that. Yeah. What do you think, Paul?
Well, I've been trying to make a little light, as long as the grass looks like it's going to accept it and everything's cool. A little light application at 818 here monthly with the fungicide application. So, I mean, he's got a couple more months of that. He could put a little light 818 on it, and then going in the fall, if he seeds, obviously X start. Then after the grass is up, but when it's about time to mow it, head with the Carbon X. That's how I usually go with it.
Barry Kavanaugh says, Matt, does your company actually produce the liquid offering you supply? I have to say the granular products rock. Barry Carboner just sells the liquid products. That manufacturer is Subvert. Subvert is the one who actually. Whoa! Something's starting to work now. I don't know what that noise was, but one of one is starting to work. Chris Seward just subscribed. Thanks, buddy. Subvert does all the reactions and stuff, so potassium acetate reactions and all the evaporation to get it to a 0030 and all that fun stuff. They handle all that. Carbon Earth does not do that. We're a granular facility. We just use so much of the Dep 10, the Dep 10 being the product we infuse into our granular, that we said, well, hell, we might as well list it on the website as well and carry as a product offering. By the way, now Paul has it at his warehouse as well, too. So anybody in eastern North Carolina that is looking for either the Carbon Earth products or the Subvert products on our website at carbonearth.co, you can go to where to buy it and look for the professional products, and you'll see on the map there exactly where Paul's warehouse is, and you can actually schedule a time to go pick it up.
Better act fast, though. It's about sold out.
It's hot. Kate,
I can't keep it.
Kate said, can you guys talk me out of spraying my cool season mix with T-Nex? I'm over it when it comes to mowing right now on a good preventative fungicide program, so there's that. The only thing I would say, the only reason I'd really give you not to do it would be just potential for discoloration. You know, the hotter it is outside, the higher the potential for bronzing. And if you do get bronzing in it from your growth regulator, it's going to take a really long time to grow out.
If it gets fungus in it, it's done. He'll never grow it out.
Yeah. That's the other thing. I hear you're on a good preventative fungicide program, but you have to remember fungicide programs, even preventatively, are still not 100%. So if you're okay, if you do end up getting disease and you are okay with that being there, then by all means, go ahead. If you're not going to be okay, if disease does get into it, then don't do it. It's calculated risk. It's I don't know how else to describe it. It is a calculated risk. Hang on one second here, Paul. Let me see if I can get this figured out. Man, I still just can't. Let me do this.
At least I'm not tired.
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah! All right, that may start working. Okay, all right, hang on. Let me keep going here, Paul. Thanks to Paul and his videos, I now make over $100 a day, said old JM.
Sweet.
And that's what I'm talking about. Doing big stuff over there. Rob Wright says, do you only ship pallet quantities to a business? I have a big enough yard to buy a pallet worth. Rob, yeah, as far as Carbon Earth, we only do B2B transactions. If you want it in those types of scenarios, you can reach out to Pete or Alan directly, and they'll work out a deal for you. But for licensing reasons and all that fun stuff, and even reporting purposes, it's easiest for us to keep it separated as B2B only. So yeah, you can reach out directly to Yardmaster, and they'll get you taken care of, Rob. I hit seeds. How often would you apply 0050 if I were trying to raise potassium slowly? I would say every 4 weeks you can make that application if you're trying to raise it slowly. There's no real risk in raising it quickly, and 0050 is low salt index. But yeah, you can make applications monthly. I mean, do you see anything wrong with that, Paul? Paul is freezing. Let's see if we can get him reconnected here. We got Skype going through a reconnection phase. I'm telling you. You get the technological geniuses on here and things just start going awry. I've got a whole bunch of stuff I'm trying to get figured out still on my end as well. Let me see if I can get Paul back on here. Hey.
Are we there?
I think you're here. I think you're coming back.
I have my camera on.
All right, get your camera. Hey, there you are. Cool. Excellent. Look at that. Right there, all in real time. As far as applying 0050, they're trying to raise their potassium slowly. They want to know how often they could apply. I said monthly. You got anything on that?
Monthly. I mean, you could put a pound per 1,000 of that, actual K on there at a time. I would think with no issues with 50 sulfate of potash, right? So yeah, rock it, man.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that, if you're experiencing deficiency symptoms now, you have to understand that in order for uptake to occur, there's got to be some nitrogen in the plant as well. So nitrogen is going to dictate the uptake of all your other nutrients, whether it's iron or potassium or phosphorus or whatever the case may be. All of that is regulated by nitrogen. So if you have a potassium deficient plant, it makes sense to go ahead and put down just a little bit of nitrogen with it to go ahead and start stimulating the uptake of that now available potassium.
There's a perfect product that has a little bit of nitrogen in there just to get your K moving through the plant, a little peptides, a little chicken manure, a little biochar. It's called Stress X.
Yeah, that was the whole idea behind that, because it's no real secret how I developed that product. I look at soil tests every day, and if anybody wants to send me a soil test, by all means, I'll go over it on the radio show. I spend a lot of time on the radio show dissecting soil tests. You can email those to me at thegrassfactor@gmail.com, and you have to listen to the radio show Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and I go through all these soil tests every week. I go through hundreds of them. And 90, not that high, maybe 60 to 70% of the soil tests I go through are so low in potassium. That was the kind of what just stimulated the idea to come up with a product like Stress X, was a little bit of nitrogen and a lot of potassium, where you can start working on those potassium levels. Because, one of the other things I teach on the radio show is MLSN, minimum level of sustainable nutrition, which is the point that you are so low in potassium that your plants begin to fail. And it's if you hit that target, you're guaranteed failure on your plant. So anyway, that was the idea behind that product. So if you're in one of those situations where you are low in potassium and you don't want to be out there slamming a lot of nitrogen, it's an easy 1-2 punch, kind of get it all down at the same time. That's what she said. Gibby said, I need a way to keep sand in place on some large slopes during leveling and renovation. Thoughts on using tackifier? Any other options? Tackifier and sand? I don't know, Paul.
Sounds like a way to make concrete or something to me.
That's a good point.
Can he put mats on them, like straw mats?
That's a good question, Gibby. Could you do that? Here's the thing. I've done enough grow in samples with on pure sand right now that, man, you take the right product and you apply it to sand. I mean, you literally do make a layer on the surface of the sand that becomes hydrophobic. meaning it repels water. And when sand starts to repel water, you know how quickly it dries out in the root system. And once it dries out, you are screwed. So my only idea and my only hiccup in that whole plan is the idea of that tackifier causing the sand to become hydrophobic and resisting the absorption of water from that point forward. During leveling and reno. Yeah, you know, Paul, when I used to do stormwater management, I seeded using those geotextile fabrics that were interwoven with coconut fibers, and so those are going to be like the V350 or C350 matting that has real thick geotextile type of grid-like interlocked fabric, and then they would weave in coconut fiber, and you would stake that into the ground every 6 inches. And I grew Bermuda through that perfectly fine, no problem. But the other thing is that once it's there, it ain't coming out.
And man, the dude who mows that is going to want to cut your head off. The stuff will start coming up and wrap around the spindles, everything else. I hate that stuff. Yeah,
well, yeah, and this is the kind of one too where it's just. It's super high dollar. It's high intensity. Gibby, I don't know, man. I honestly don't have a good option for you there. That's one I'd probably take to the Sports Turf King and see if he has any input on using tackifier. I just don't know enough about the qualities of tackifier to give you a good answer there, to be honest. Nick said, what do you recommend as a top dress to help soil next to the driveway with excessive rocks in it, 2 to 3 inches deep? Nick, I chuckle because, man, there ain't nothing you can do to fix that other than get the rocks up. I mean, and even then, especially if it's cool season grass, just being next to that concrete, you're talking about temperatures being so high you pass the genetic limits of that plant easily. So first things first, if you can get the concrete out and be done with it, then you're winning right there already on the get-go. If you can't get it out, then unfortunately there's just going to be nothing you can add to it that's really going to help with that. Have you discovered anything, Paul? Any kind of cooling blanket or something?
No, but I mean, in that same vein, even if you have a yard with like large, like semi-buried underground rocks or whatever, even when you get the grass around that rock, if there's not a good several feet of soil between the rock and the top layer there, I mean, the grass always struggles in that kind of situation. But something area full of rocks, I mean, you just got to dig it out and start over is the only suggestion I got for you.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've seen that works. Everything other than that is just a giant guessing game. Eric said, what is the release time duration in the 818 compared to Carbon X or Balance? I imagine it varies, but is there a ballpark? 818 is going to be a little quicker. It's probably going to be closer to like 6 weeks. Carbon X may give you a little bit more time. Balance is probably going to be closer to a Carbon X type of release. And Paul, are you saying anything there that I've got a chart of it on the website if you want to take a look at that too. Paul, anything you've noticed about that you disagree with?
As far as duration, I don't really know. I probably haven't let it sit long enough without reapplying to know. But the X screen seems a little slow on the visual response from the grass. That's why Chris Allen's called it sneaky green.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'd put it out, and after a week or so, if you had a rain, you'd look at it and say, well, yeah, whatever. And then after about 2 weeks, into that third week, you're like, whoa, there it goes. But as far as longevity, I don't know. I mean, I guess the chicken manure and biochar kind of work together to hold and release, but it's got that ammonium sulfate in it. I would think that would kind of go right on out. But the chicken manure is going to, have to kind of get biologically released. So I don't know. You would know that more than me. But just in using it, it seems like the X Green, it takes it a few weeks to really work its magic.
Yep, I would agree. It's a little slow. It's not a super long lasting product. So I'd say 6 weeks, kind of tops right there. Shane Brady says, I bought some Sure Power and excited to see the results combining it with quinclorac. I think you're gonna enjoy that, especially where you are, Shane. I think that's a good fit for your location. Paul, have you sprayed any Sure Power yet?
I've played around with it some. It's super effective, but you got to be really careful. Rod Marquardt came down here with some and warned me. It was in the spring. He said, "Do not spray this now. Wait till the summer. Wait till the summer." And I, being an asshole, I went ahead and sprayed it. And it'll turn your turf brown, but it comes back. And then I spot sprayed some here not too long ago. I just put a video out talking about using it on some buttonweed, and it's pretty effective on buttonweed. That flumioxazin really gets that stuff in the plants. But they were talking about that it could even have some action on crabgrass alone by itself, but you step it up with a little quinclorac and you're really getting some efficacy on crabgrass. That's an exciting herbicide.
Yeah, that's the only odd thing about it is that you don't want to spray it till it gets real hot. You actually see less damage, less collateral damage in your turf the hotter it gets. Odd thing, but also what gives you a lot of versatility there with it. So, how many herbicides do you have that you can spray on wild violets in the middle of summer and get control over it? That's the only one we got. So, neat little deal there. What's up, Turf Therapy? How are you, good sir? B. Willis says, has Paul ever smoked a yard? Have you ever killed a yard on accident, Paul?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, B. Willis, you're not testing your limits. You're not seeing how far you can take things until you kill the yard. I in my opinion, I've killed way too many of them, to be honest.
I've beat some Bermuda yards down so bad that I thought I killed them, and then they came back, and then I blew that guy's bent grass up, and it actually improved it somehow. But I right going into the end of the season for fescue, I sprayed one with the last round of fungicides, and I had been out. I think I'd sprayed probably 10, 12 acres of Celsius the day before. I had a machine and came home tired and hot and washed it out because I had one last yard to get fungicide on. And I thought I cleaned it out good enough, and I Celsius the hell out of that fescue yard. and Matt, I can't tell you how much Celsius I sprayed on fescue clumps in a Bermuda yard, and it wouldn't phase it.
Yeah.
But you spray it on a fescue yard, it'll try all the way to 3 feet in the ground. It murdered it.
Yeah. I mean, exact same thing I've had happen before, where I thought I got Celsius cleaned out of a tank that I had propiconazole in, that I put propiconazole in to go spray fescue, and I did not get it all out. And I mean, it did a phenomenal job of killing the fescue, and has never killed fescue for me like that before, unless I'm spraying a fescue yard with it and unintentionally trying to kill it.
Yeah, there couldn't have been but trace amounts of it in there, and I mean, it burnt that thing up.
It's kind of like I had the same experience with 2,4-D and centipede, where I have laid into centipede growing in Bermuda grass with 2,4-D and turned it every color of the rainbow and never once killed it. But I promise you get a little heavy with your Speed Zone Southern on some centipede on a nice centipede yard, and you're going to start knocking out big ass sections of it. I don't know why it is, but it's just how it works. The Lawn Apprentice said, man, I told you a couple weeks ago that I put 818 down late June for July 4th domination. Guy cut my grass and scalp gouged my lawn. 818 caught a hold, and yard was and still is dark green. That is good to hear. Awesome, Lawn Apprentice. Man, I can't believe that guy scalped it down like that. That drives me crazy. Dover in the Yard DIY. How many far girls do I have to kiss to get a Carbon X deal around the Augusta, Georgia area? Dover, we have talked to, I think, one person in Augusta, Georgia, and they were not interested in carrying it. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. You know, I'd love to put it in every store across the country, but the reality is that 99% of people aren't interested in carrying our product. So that's just how it is. You're back. Technoval says, "Hey, Technoval, he's got a UT Power T, my man, right there. That's what I'm talking about." Soil is 52% silt. By the way, Technoval, we got a new dealer here in Knoxville as well, too. You can go to Loves Creek Nursery here in Knoxville. Now stocks our products as well. Soil is 52% silt, 25% clay, and the rest is fine sand. It gets extremely hard. What do you guys suggest to help loosen it over time? The easiest thing is to get something growing on it. And if you're struggling with it drying out and the soil becoming hydrophobic in the summer months, and where you're getting those big cracks in it that we get here in Knoxville, you know, first things first, you got to get something growing on it in the fall when we have our rainy season over winter, right? You got to get something growing on it. That's going to be your biggest help. Second piece of that is if it does completely dry out like that, you got to use a wetting agent in order to get it to go back to being able to hold water again. You'll never be able to get it to hold water again unless we get 2, 3, 4 inches of rain in a 2-week period. If the only way to circumvent that, like if you got irrigation or you're hoping a 1-inch rainfall is going to help your grass out, you're going to have to get a wetting agent down. In my experience, at least here in this area.
Yeah, I'd agree with that totally.
The Lawn Fix says, been doing a fungicide treatment every month with azoxy and propiconazole. Why the hell do I have fungus? Looks like Pythium, which I had last year. Should I apply something again? Because azoxy and propiconazole don't work that well on Pythium. And chances are that's probably what I'd say you're either dealing with Pythium or dollar spot. And both the azoxy and propiconazole aren't going to work well on dollar spot and aren't going to work that well on Pythium either. It may slow Pythium down a hair, where normally in a 5 to 7 day period, Pythium would wipe your lawn out to the ground. You're still going to get it, and it's still going to spread. It just ain't going to take it all the way to the ground. Azoxy and propiconazole aren't a total catch-all, but they are a pretty good catch-all. They're going to work on your patch diseases fairly well. Great even. They're not going to work great. They're only going to work moderately well, if well at all, basic for dollar spot and Pythium. So you'll want to switch it up. If you got dollar spot, I'd recommend the NC State information on Pythium. You can go to Google, type in NC State Pythium, and it'll give you a list of products there. We talked about it on the radio show. You can do the same with dollar spot as well. Just azoxy and propiconazole are not magical in the sense that they're going to catch everything you're going to run into.
It's the penance you pay for trying to grow tall fescue where it doesn't belong.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You are exactly right. Tall fescue in 90, 95 degree weather ain't a good thing. Ryan Schultz says, any worries throwing down some 818 in the heat, 90s all week, cool season, Illinois? No, just back your rate down. Don't go with the super high rate. You know, if you're running a quarter pound or 0.32 pounds, something like that, 3 to 4 pounds a 1,000, you're not going to hurt nothing.
And look at your yard. I mean, if it's all brown and curled up and struggling in the heat and all that, maybe run the irrigation on it some, see what it looks like after that. But, there's no need to throw down on one that looks like it's, got 1 foot in the grave and one on a banana field.
I had a couple of comments come up from the neighbor dominator. I kind of saw out of the corner of my eye. I'm not going to read that out loud, but that was funny, the neighbor dominator. Ken Zaleski says, kind of follow up on the Dallas grass question. Can I buy Fusilade as a homeowner? If not, what rate do I want to mix Ornament to get the strength of Fusilade? The label rate for turf, you got to remember, Fusilade is 1 ounce per 1,000 away from becoming non-selective. So That is not an easy one. And somebody was asking a question about bull paspalum. No, that was Ben Nowak. No, I'll get to there eventually. So I guess you're asking about controlling Dallas grass with fluazafop, which you can do. I prefer, if you're going to do that, I prefer to run both fluazafop and Pilex. You know, get ready to stroke a check on that mix. But you have to remember, Fusilade is very, very, very hard on the grass. Very hard on the grass. Stick to label rates. If not, drop your rate a little bit and make more applications, because it is very hard on the grass. Most people that spray fluazafop, and here's the thing, Ornamec is going to have a turf label rate on it. Fusilade is not going to have a turf label rate on it. It'll have situational rates on it, but it's not going to have an overall rate on it. So I would probably use the Ornamec version, since it does have a turf label, and it will give you the precise rate to use that's going to be safe for turf. Fusilade is just, I mean, you are this close from killing the grass at all times using it. Everybody I see that goes out with it the first time, I usually get an email about it after the fact that says, I will never spray fluazafop ever again. Every year, Paul. And it seems to be, and I'm not picking on people from North Carolina, but it's a lot of people in North Carolina that send me those emails.
Well, that's one of the professors at NC State's favorite product, but just for doing your renovations. He wants you to run Fusilade and Roundup, Fusilade and Roundup. You ain't done a renovation unless you put Fusilade and Roundup on it. Killed the whole thing. But I've never sprayed Fusilade right into grass. I've used the Ornamec product a little, but Fusilade's some rough stuff.
Man, we're getting some heat comments coming in that. Let's see. Timmy Bluegrass says, Matt, is uptake coming back? I see it listed as out of stock on the Subvert site, but not listed on the Carbon Earth one. Yeah, it is. I have no idea. I'll keep checking on it and see what the deal is with that. That's not something I personally manufacture, so I'm at the mercy of others to make that happen. So the only thing I can do is ask if they're willing to do it. Ada Zoysia. Paul Walker says, talk about the Subvert products. I think the way I've got it organized is kind of a broad question. I think the way I've got it organized on the Carbon Earth products makes sense, right? So there's biostimulant products out there, right? And you've got MFT, which is going to be peptides and micronutrients, right? Then you've got the D10 and D10 plus. The whole difference between those formulations just depends on what you're going to be tank mixing it with, right? So if you're tank mixing it with a little extra nitrogen, a little extra potassium, and you're worried about getting your potassium levels up, using your biostimulant is going to have a little bit of extra potassium in it. Just helps you keep those potassium levels higher. If you're not going to be spraying any potassium, you don't need any potassium, then it doesn't make sense to use it. Then just use your regular D10. Or if you're going to be running you want to run micronutrients and you don't have any to run alongside your NP and K, you mix up your NP and K, then use your MFT with it, and you kind of got it all in one there. So those are just biostimulant-like products. Then you've got foliar products, which are going to be your GTMF, your Triple F, and whatever those are that I've got listed on there. And those are just all in ones. Everything's already in it. You just mix it at label rate, go spray it. You're getting a little bit of NPK, a little bit of the biostimulant, and a little bit of micronutrients. That's why SYFE is the other one too. And then you've got just raw materials. If you want to come up with your own product, then you can just get the raw materials and mix them into your tank as you see need be. So if you want to put a little iron EDTA in there and a little zinc EDTA in there and then a little D10, you can make your own little micronutrient complex right there that's all going to play well together with one another. So it's separated into just raw ingredients, pre-mixed materials, and biostimulants on the website. So that's I guess really the only thing I need to do. I've done a video on the studies of the peptides. We've got studies we've been doing right now. I sent Paul kind of the results of that where we've been doing a 14-day germination study where we were seeing what different products we could run on in a single application from 0 to 14 days and see what kind of action we would get. At 14 days, we started transplanting them into cups, and we made a second application on them as well too. But that wasn't until we went ahead and got some pictures of plant development and root development, and what percentage of the seed germinated, and what kind of coverage that provides us in the cup. And then we're going to transfer this over to an establishment study where we go 14 to 28 days and see how much coverage we can get on that cup. Can we get it 100% covered? And from 0 days, which is no germination at all the way to 28 days, can we get 100% coverage? That's what we're doing with it. And of course, I'll make all that public with it as well.
I've got some yards that we put them out on. So I did the go time on a Bermuda yard that is seeded. Has just been seeded, but it was seeded to the point where it had been mowed one time. I mean, it's kind of filling in, but put 3 gallons an acre go time on that one. And today I sent you the little clip of where I sprayed the new sod yard with a little go time and put some X-Start on it, and we'll see how quickly that thing tacks down.
Yeah, it's been kind of an interesting kind of gig there. If you look at the GTMF, you're going to see MP and K, right? The big focus there on the P and K, and then of course the biostimulant component being the peptide, and then we also add a little zinc in there because typically higher zinc tissue levels correlate with better phosphorus utilization as well. What is going on? Who is this? Brad, man, what are you doing, B-Rad? Man. He's over here throwing money at us, Paul.
Us.
Yeah, and for everybody tuning in right here, this money's going to go to Paul because he's the one who's out here taking up his time to answer these questions for me. He's taking time away from his family, and he works. I mean, you talk about somebody who works nonstop. Paul is it right there, man. My goodness. Here we go, Paul. This is a good one. David Hensel says, Matt, my neighbor tells me all the time I've got spurge coming up, so that means I've got nematodes. Is that a real thing?
No.
It can be. Here's one of the things. If you have the other symptoms of having nematodes, like turf that won't grow upright, turf that's discolored or is yellow and doesn't respond to fertilizer at all, and it has these nice, just beautiful kind of randomly sporadic depressions in the lawn. And if you dig it up and you look at the roots under a hand lens and you see a little bit of movement, chances are you could have nematodes. But if you're not experiencing all those symptoms, just because you have spurge doesn't mean you for sure, without a doubt, have nematodes. It's kind of like one of those. I can't remember what it was, but somebody told me that if you get your calcium levels up, then you can correct your dandelion issues as well. Yeah, me too, Paul. Me too. Thomas said, are you still letting your fescue go in the summer without mowing? Summer has arrived in Charlotte, and I haven't mowed in 2 weeks. Looking a little shaggy in some spots and stressed in others. Personally, yeah, I haven't mowed my front in 2 weeks, and I really don't need to mow it still anyway. I mean, yeah, it's a little shaggy. I could probably do some weed eating, but it doesn't necessarily need a cut. It's just, it's 91, 92, 93 degrees, and we haven't had rain in 10 days or so there's no real reason for me to cut water out of the plant. If we were getting rain and it was still growing, I would cut it, but it ain't growing right now, so not really any reason for me to cut it. Paul, you got a different take. You cut for a living as well too.
Irrigated. I won't touch a fescue yard in this part of the world that's not irrigated, but I got them pumped up so hard right now. They're growing like mad. They fingers crossed. They still look great right now. They're growing and look like springtime out there.
Let's see. Seed heads in Bermuda is horrible this year. What can you do to help? Oh, golly. One
kind of Bermuda grass.
He said, get a different kind of Bermuda grass. Yeah. No, if you can get it under regulation before the seed heads start showing up, that's a great way. Keeping it well fed with NP and K is another thing you can do. But outside of that, you're kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature there, because it just was kind of the nature of the grass. It goes to seed easy, so whatever stimuli is there to cause it to go to seed, for sure it's going to do it. Do you have any secrets for seed head production, Paul?
Yeah, just a PGR, and I guess some cultivars will make a little more seed head than others, but not a major issue here. Mow it. You got to keep it mowed.
Right.
But like my personal Bermuda yard, I'm trying to mow that a couple times a week, and it's under regulation. So I don't ever see a seed head here, but some of the ones I'm out mowing will. But if it's just a real low end, random, common Bermuda, it's hard to keep the seed heads out of.
Yeah, I have common, and if I don't put it under regulation before the seed head production starts, then it ain't going to happen. It'll just stay going to seed for the whole year. Roshan Parker says, when should you throw down 0050? What are the benefits to turf? My base saturation of K was at 2, which is low, but my pounds per acre of potassium was around 306. So pounds per acre of 306, that would be 153 parts per million, which is high. 153 parts per million isn't high, but I would call that satisfactory. Your BCSR, your base cation saturation ratio, is a bunch of horse crap. So what I would do is take that piece of it that has any of those percentages on it, and I'd go ahead and take your scissors, cut it out, and throw it away, because it's a bunch of garbage, to be honest. If you have a deficiency and you're trying to correct a deficiency with BCSR, wait, let me state it this way. You can have perfect ratios in BCSR and still have a deficiency. So it's not a real thing unless you hit some sort of minimum level or some sort of critical threshold for turfgrass performance. And the other thing too that it doesn't really take into consideration is going to be nutrient removal through the course of the year. Any kind of crop production, whether it's turf grass or corn or whatever the crop is, there's going to be nutrient removal that occurs throughout the course of the growing season. As long as you're applying nitrogen, nutrients are being pulled from the soil. They're being removed from the soil as well. Just because you apply 2 pounds of potassium and you recycle your clippings does not mean you're retaining all 2 pounds of that potassium. So it's going to affect that BCSR. BCSR is a load of garbage. You can do lots of Googling on it, especially related to turf grass, and it'll send you down a wormhole and you'll feel silly. So when should you throw it down? If you've made a series of applications that are nitrogen intensive and you're trying to get your potassium levels up, then it makes sense to go in behind it with an application of 0050. So I'll give you an example here. You've got a soil test that says you're at 156 parts per million of potassium. What I would do is I'd hop on over to Pace Turf and use the climate appraisal form to estimate what your nutrient removal is and what your nutrient demand is based on the time of year, and then calculate how much nitrogen you apply. And then that'll tell you in pounds per million how much potassium has been removed from the soil. If you're getting close to that critical level, which is around 37 parts per million, which you wouldn't this year, then you can apply it, but there's no real need to apply it. You can save your money on it this year. In my experience, in my opinion, the closer you get to 100 parts per million, the more critical it is for you to start applying more potassium. When I'm at 100 parts per million of potassium, that's when I'm starting to panic. I need to get more out. When I'm at 150 parts per million, I'm okay to skip a few applications and not have to worry about potassium. It's kind of the easiest complex way I know to explain it. Was that what do you think, Paul? Is it
what kind of grass has he got? I mean, what is he trying to improve soil levels, or is he trying to build soil levels, or is he trying to do something with the grass? That's kind of what with your warm season grasses. We'll run the 0050 in the fall to help harden them off and protect against disease. And if we had all had the crystal ball this fall, I think everybody would have ran out and put SOP on their centipede and fescue, knowing that they were pretty much under attack by large patch in the fall, and you didn't even see it. And then when they came out of dormancy in the spring, they were just riddled.
Yeah, that man, you're right. Those are a lot of different variables too that would also affect the way in which you're going to use it, Roshan. So a little more information, and we'll probably give you a bit more specifics here. X green smoke rings, Kevin said. Let's hear. Tiffany said, any suggestions for trees that need to be planted above a plate of limestone? The whole yard, house, and street has been carved out of it. Need tough roots. Boy. The only thing I could think to do is go wider with the root ball. So, normally they say, what is it? You want to have the whole width 1.5 times the size of the root ball. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'd say maybe go closer to like 3 times the size of the root ball to try and loosen up, provide a little tillage, a little softness to that soil to try and encourage the roots to move outward. I'd also shave the root ball down too to try and stimulate lateral growth that way as well. But that's really the only thing I can think of.
And you'd have to think of something that had, instead of something that dropped like a long tap root that it needs to support the tree, something that spreads roots out. Now, I mean, I don't know what that tree is right offhand, but I mean, that would be something to look at. The nursery could probably help you with that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of and that would also be tolerant of that would maybe be like a live oak would probably be good in that type of situation. That's really all I got. I don't know. Sorry, Tiffany. I'm not a lot of useful information there, but consult with your nursery.
Yeah, I mean, if that's a pretty common practice in the area where you live, I'm sure the nursery has that worked out by now and can tell you what to go after.
J-Roll, go Vols. My man, look at all the Vol fans pouring in here. That's what I'm talking about. Today is a good day. He said, hey guys, turf tight tall fescue in Nashville. I have high phosphorus and I'm doing an overseed this fall. Should I bypass X-Start? My concern is that phosphorus might be locked up at seeding in seedlings too young for exudation. What do you? He already has high phosphorus. What do you think? Should he go ahead and go with X-Start or not?
My general experience with soils here, I get a lot of tests back that are high phosphorus, but I really just do not believe it's plant available, and I would put a starter with it, an X-Start.
Yeah, and here's the thing, it all is dictated by your nitrogen levels, right? So if you're applying 4 pounds of nitrogen, you're going to be pulling 1 pound of actual phosphorus out of the soil. So if you apply X-Star at 3/4 of a pound of phosphorus, you're still reducing your phosphorus levels over the course of the year, whether you're applying X-Star or not. You're still reducing phosphorus levels because you have not met the phosphorus demand. You're applying enough to at least get the seed up and seed established and seed started, but you're not applying enough to build phosphorus levels in the soil. You're just providing a soluble source for it at the time of seeding. Matt Martinez says, what happened if you over-apply peptides? Just haven't done it. Wanted to see what you saw in your research. Yeah, the grass dies. It's pretty simple as that. I don't know how to describe it. It freaks out and then dies. So not really for the faint of heart. I mean, Paul's seen plenty of pictures of me testing stuff here and there, and it's not like it stops growing. It's not like it just changes colors for a little while. I mean, it just dies. Simple as that.
Seems like it diverts everything to root, and then it wigs out and dies.
Yeah, and that's kind of how the chemists explain it to me, is that you have to remember with the peptides, we're not working on hormonal pathways in the plant. You're actually working on genetic pathways in the plant. So when you're dealing with genetics and you overstimulate it that way, you're basically telling the plant to sacrifice every other physiological process and just divert that energy to the root system at the sacrifice of the entire plant. So kind of difficult. So don't over apply. The label is the law for a reason in those types of scenarios. I have a tall fescue lawn. Some of it is going dormant. Currently using X-Green and only mowing once a week or 2 weeks, depending on growth. What would you recommend? Keep using X-Green or switch over to X-Stress? I would let your soil test dictate that. And if it's already going dormant, and that's probably due to heat, no fertilizer is going to save you from that. It's going to have to be cooler temperatures and water that change that. Big John's Lawns again, Paul. What kind of cigar are you having tonight?
The Monte Cristo.
That's right. Let's see. Turfs Up Health Desk. Have you tried turning it off and on back again?
You want to plug your modem?
Yeah. We have turned it off and on a couple of times actually tonight. How soon can I spot spray crabgrass and nutsedge in my newly seeded zoysia? It's 30 days since seeding. Hand pulled all the crabgrass so far, 15,000 square feet. 30 days since seeding. I'd say if you cut it once, I'd feel comfortable going ahead and spraying it. I've never seeded zoysia on a big scale, though. Have you, Paul?
Not on a big scale. I had a lady want it priced, and once I got the price to seed for, she quickly decided that she liked that Bermuda grass I had. Yeah,
that's, I have I've bid several jobs on it, but never won the bid, so I haven't been able to do a 15,000 square foot project.
I think it's like $38 a pound.
Yeah, it ain't cheap.
And Zoysia spreads painfully slow. I don't know if I could. I mean, I don't know if anyone would be satisfied with a yard that cost them $5,000 to seed and it took 2 years to fill in. I mean, I don't know.
It's a 2-year project without a doubt. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a painful long 2-year project. JH said, could you explain the key identifiers between gray leaf spot, brown patch, dollar spot lesions, or maybe a full video on correctly identifying it, maybe even contrast it with potassium deficiency? I think we can do that. I don't think I can do that with words alone. That's kind of a difficult thing. The hard part, and when trying to do it in a video, is finding the pictures that are most accurate. I don't know. Paul, do you have enough time to crank that out real quick?
Well, I hope I don't see any of it. But, I won't disagree with him. It's hard when you early development of a fungus, or when you see something going on in the yard. I mean, I have some trouble sometimes differentiating one from the other at first, but then when they go, full on and start murdering stuff, I can say, oh, yeah, that was dollar spot.
Yeah.
The early stages of that stuff all looks the same to me. Grass is turning brown.
Yeah, it is, especially you start getting in the gray leaf spot. That's when it gets real squarely trying to identify the different ones there. That's for sure. Slaw Dog Sawyer, I love that name. Matt, what's good? How about some coin chlorax spike with some nitrogen and natural adjuvant to strike down some crabgrass? Thanks. Yeah, I would still add a good penetrant like a crop oil concentrate or a methylated seed oil, though. Paul?
Yeah, I'd put some seed oil in there with my OU812 or whatever that stuff's called.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is that? I can't remember.
O2YS. O2YS.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, you need something oily to get in there on that crabgrass. I always say I'm going to put enough seed oil in it to fry a chicken. I've been getting calls and texts and stuff. When you spray quinclorac on Bermuda, it turns it yellow. comes back.
Yes, quinclorac and sulfentrazone, certainty to an extent will all discolor. Celsius will all discolor Bermuda grass. Just mentally prepare for it. It's gonna discolor it. You're gonna be all right. It'll come back. But natural adjuvant is going to be a great surfactant to distribute it across the leaf surface, but you still need an oil-based penetrant to penetrate that outer cuticle of crabgrass. So yes, you can use it, and you're not going to hurt anything by using that natural adjuvant, but you still need a good penetrant alongside with it. The natural adjuvant is going to be a good surfactant, but you need a good penetrant as well.
A little 2,4-D goes nice with your quinclorac too to really knock them down.
Yeah. Carfentrazone is another good one too. Quicksilver is a good one. I like that as well. Let's see. Eric Rebert said bentgrass taking over mainly tall fescue lawn in St. Louis transition zone, causing fungus issues. Nasty, matted look. Best practice to remove. We talked about this already, but go ahead and glyphosate it out and be done with it. The neighbor Dominator says, laying down late night potassium. Yes, sir. That's a good one. NGB says, I live in upstate New York and have turf-tight tall fescue and Kentucky bluegrass. Would MFT or D10 Plus be a better product to put down in the summer heat? I hope I answered that with my talk about it earlier. MFT is going to be good. That if you want to apply micronutrients, you can certainly do that. If you are trying to get potassium down as part of a tank mix, because you have to remember, NGB, those are not standalone products. Those are not designed to be a sole application product. Those are designed to be part of an NPK program. They do not take the place of NPK in your program. They're in addition to, not instead of. So whatever the case may be, whatever you're looking to do, if you're making a micronutrient application to try and get some color in upstate New York, say you want to get a little iron down or something, it may make sense to use Subvert MFT. If you're going with a little depth kick and a little K-Max, then D10 Plus is going to be a great fit for you right in the middle of there. It is not a standalone product though, so I'm not asking you to run that by itself. Ben Nowak says, everyone says leave chickweed and the heat will take it out. I'm in 7A and it lasts through mid-July. Mutant chickweed or internet lying? Both. Or that's actually not chickweed, Ben. I don't know if I've ever seen chickweed last this long.
No, we had plenty of it in the spring and it's gone. Saw some Poa annua not too long ago in the shade.
Get out of here. Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me want to throw up.
I think it's mutating. I think it's going to last forever next year.
Yeah, in some places, Poa annua is a what do you call it? A perennial. Up in like Pennsylvania and stuff, it doesn't go dormant up there anymore. It churns right through, man.
Well, it was about 387 degrees here today. And I'm telling you, you can still hunt around and find some in plant beds and in the shade and up under bushes and stuff. Where it stays wet.
Yeah, next to your air conditioner. Best tall canopy deciduous specimen tree that doesn't have surface roots strangling the turf. You're not going to find one, especially if you only plant one of them. If you planted like 5 or 6 of them that allow them to compete with each other, the ones in the center of that 5 or 6 grouping is going to be fine, but the ones on the outer are going to have surface roots. That's just how it is, man. You're not going to be able to circumvent that. Now, not all of them are going to be like a pawpaw or something that has these massive, huge above ground ones, but you can pretty much expect whichever one you choose to plant is going to do it, no matter what. Am in the transition zone, but wanted to renovate to 100% Kentucky bluegrass. Next season was thinking of tank mixing azoxy and propiconazole and then rotating every 2 weeks to Cleary's and Ballista. Thoughts? What is Ballista? I don't even know what that is. Well, let me look this up real quick.
Where in the transition zone is he?
That's a good question too. I don't know that as well.
because you may be able to pull that off Virginia or in the mountains or something, but I don't know how that works here. The heat tolerant varieties apparently hold up pretty good, and I think bluegrass probably does okay. It just gets really thirsty in the summers here.
Yeah, I don't have any experience with Valista, so it looks like dollar spot control, brown patch, large patch. I don't see anything for it for summer patch in Rhizoctonia salina, summer patch in Kentucky bluegrass. So I honestly don't know. I'd say that's probably a good one. I don't see anything for Pythium, so the only thing I would add to that is a phosphite. I would add a phosphite with every one of those applications. I'd also be spraying phosphite for sure. Greg Aspenson, which is a quick release, urea or ammonium sulfate? Whichever is faster release. Would that be best used as the last application before winter? Ammonium sulfate and urea are both fast release. Technically, in terms of hours, maybe, ammonium sulfate is going to be faster because ammonium nitrogen is already plant available, whereas urea has to react with an enzyme called urease in order to convert into ammonia, and ammonia is a plant available nitrogen source. So as far as before winter, I'd say especially if you're neutral to high pH, ammonium sulfate is going to be your better choice. If you're low pH or acidic, then urea is probably your better choice. Smooth bull paspalum, tenacity, or fluazafop. Bull paspalum. This the big shiny paspalum looks like shiny Dallas grass. I would say either Pilex plus Fusilade or fluazafop. I don't think tenacity is going to help you with it all that much.
I don't have any experience with that one.
Yeah, fluazafop by itself might get it, but you might need the extra kick to get it there with Fusilade with something like some additional Pilex or something. Let's see. Sure Power plus Solero. Thoughts? I think that is a great summer mix, Johnny Fescue. The neighbor dominant. I got this. I'm gonna copy this and send this to Paul after the show. That's hilarious. Let's see. Is 4-speed XT effective in the summer? Yes. Just understand there is a temperature restriction on it for a reason. It has fluroxypyr and triclopyr in it. That is hot. That's a hot mix for the summertime. I'll tell you that right now. Somebody said just hit it with humic. It cures everything. Paint it black. Let's see. Seriously, though, my Kentucky bluegrass that came in this April is really struggling, and some looks like it died. What can I do to try to protect it from these 100-degree days? I'm growing it out from 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, higher height of cut. Syringing it in the middle of the day, cutting on a water cycle in the middle of the day to try and reduce the surface temperature. I'm telling you, man, your soil temperature starts getting up to 90 degrees. Boy, your Kentucky bluegrass, I don't care how improved it is not enjoying life at all. At that point, I mean, you're playing. You're trying to play God in that aspect to keep it alive. I don't know how else to describe it. Anything over 85 soil temp wise, any cool season grass is trying to go dormant. Like it is actively trying to go dormant. So, anything you can do to bring the soil temperature down is the only thing you can do to try and keep that from happening. Do you have any secrets, Paul?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's just,
It's not genetically possible. I mean, you can water it, and that's about the only hope you got. You can put an umbrella over it. I don't know.
This is kind of an interesting one here. Mr. Green says, in the past, I've experienced strange growth from using too much humic acid on vegetables. What's the deal with that? The only thing I would think is that too much auxin accumulates in the tissue.
RGS or just humic acid?
I don't. It just says humic right here.
Yeah, I saw some weird fescue growth running RGS in the summertime before. It could have been my imagination, but it just seemed to want to just shoot straight up for the sky and get kind of spindly. That's why I cut the. If I was going to run humic on fescue in the summer, I cut the kelp out of it.
Yeah, humic, typically an application with humic can correlate in certain species of plants with higher auxin levels, which is a growth hormone. If it's combined with kelp is also going to have a high amount of cytokinins, which is another hormone, and also some gibberellic acid, which is another hormone. And so the only thing I can think, Mr. Green, I have no idea. I don't know the rates you were running and all that stuff, is that you have an overabundance of production of plant hormones that cause some squirreliness taking place. I don't know. I'm just guessing, man. The Lawn Whisperer said, "I'm here for the Outlaw."
Thanks.
Man, dude, the questions are crazy. All right, let me find this. Here we go. Where am I? You guys do so much to educate us. What can we do for you guys other than spread a word about y'all? What can somebody do for you, Paul?
Buy Carbonex and subvert. Permagreen.
Yeah, go get you a Permagreen. Yeah, I mean, nothing. Watch, I guess. Hell, I don't know. Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words there. I don't really look for anything, so that's why I've got all these businesses that I have, is because, I don't want to ask anything of you. That's for sure. When can I safely start adding CX? It depends on here in assuming you have cool season grass when it starts to cool down. So if you see a forecast that looks like it's going to be dipping back to the 80s and then the 70s, you're good when you're on a cooling trend. So that may be September for you. That may be August for you. That may be October for you, somewhere around there. Yeah, Paul Wade. I called you Paul Walker. Paul Walker's the guy from, wasn't he a movie star or something?
That's the Fast and Furious guy, isn't it?
Yeah, I love you, Paul Wade, but you sure as hell don't look nothing like Paul Walker. Let's see. Yellow nut sedge popping up. Sedge Ender on Amazon works great and cheap, FYI. That's awesome. I have no idea what that is. Sedge Ender. I've never. It sounds like Pro Sedge or something. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Stress X is working like a champ. That's good news. Thank you, Lucky Boy Sunday. Thank you, sir. Let's see. I'm still mowing my turf tight tall fescue in Charlotte every 3 to 4 days. I have front and back irrigation. There you go. Big John's Lawns. What's up, dude? How are you? Kate said, Paul, would you consider yourself a low volume on the properties every 2 weeks type of applicator, or a 6 application per year type of guy with lots of accounts? Pros and cons of either.
I have a lot of accounts that I've managed for another company that they do the maintenance on, and I spray them, and there is a lot of them, and they're kind of on a little different schedule than the ones that are in my own inventory. And I some of his I'm only getting on 3 times a year, things like that. My fescue yards that are my yards, I mean, I'm probably doing a treatment on them 12 times a year plus. So it's just depends on where they land, actually. But most of the ones that I do for me versus the ones I do for another company, I get a lot of service, actually. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think you told him that yes to each section of that question he asked. Let's see. Trying to get my Bermuda to spread 1,000 square feet. Started with 30% coverage. Right now up to 80%. Throw in 3/4 of a pound to 1 pound of nitrogen to it weekly. Is there a point where I could damage it if I continue with that rate? Yeah, I'd back that down, man. Just, I mean, it's just really at that point, probably what you're realistically doing is burning off 25, 30, 40, 50% of that. If you use the coated urea or a stabilized urea, you could drop that rate, probably to every 2 weeks, because realistically, the most your plant's going to be able to use in a week is 1/4 pound of nitrogen. So usually 0.11, 0.12 pounds in per week, something like that is going to be good. If you're trying to get your Bermuda to fill in, I would not just be applying nitrogen. I would be applying nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. There are lots of studies that show that combining NP and K with each application for Bermuda grass not only increases the number of stolons, but also the rate of lateral spread and the density of the spacing between the nodes. Also, plus and also an increase in number of nodes. So it doesn't make sense to me to continue to run just straight nitrogen. Maybe 3-4 applications of it and then start switching to something more balanced. What's the shelf life of MFT if kept in a controlled environment? At least a year, something like that. If I applied wood ash from my wood stove, would that add potash? Any other positives or negatives? White fully burned wood ash. Yeah, you should add some potash. It's going to be a relatively low rate. Like it's at maximum, it's probably going to be about 1% potassium. The other thing is depending on what wood you're burning, is you probably have a higher amount of potassium chloride in it. So just understand that if you are trying to put out, like 1,000 pounds on 1,000 square feet or something, that you're going to have to deal with the salt index of it as well, something like that. But no, you're fine. You're good there. You can totally do that. Dennis Page said, Paul, what lawnmower blades and care of the blades would you suggest?
My mulching mower, I use what are those things called? I'm losing my train of thought. They're mulching blades. It'll come to me eventually. I can't remember what they're called. But as far as the other mower blades, just for the side discharge, I just use whatever I get at the dealer, the high lift ones. I think they're just rotary brand or something, but the mulching blades I do buy the higher price one, and now I can't remember what in the world it's called.
Are they Gator blades?
No, the Gator blade is not a mulching blade, regardless, despite contrary belief. It's like a hybrid blade, but it doesn't have anything to divert the airflow to recycle. Like as a real mulching blade has a big lump in it right in the middle.
Yeah.
It makes the airflow different. But these have the lump in them and the little teeth on the back like a Gator blade. For the life of them, I can't remember what they're called now all of a sudden. But I don't know.
How often do you sharpen them, or what do you do to care for them?
I got a actual blade sharpener. I think it's called the Wall RGB or something like that. I don't sharpen as often as I should, but I mean, I try to get them at least every couple of weeks, or right at 15, 20 hours of mowing, depending on what you're mowing too. If you're mowing a lot of sand, I don't mow as much as I used to, but like when we were going out mowing everything, you run a lot of hay grass and things like that, and you gotta be sharp to mow that kind of stuff and knock down those seed heads and stuff like that. So,
zoysia grass
more often. Yeah, zoysia grass is tough to cut. You got to be good and sharp. And even this time of year with your fescues, you want to be sure that you're going at them with a sharp blade and you're not ripping the grass versus you're cutting it versus ripping it. So yeah, you need to be pretty keen on your blade sharpening and do it. I mean, you inspect your blades and you'll know when they need sharpening. You'll know when they need sharpening by the way the thing cuts. But technically you should be doing it at least once a week or every 10 to 15 hours of service on your machine.
Paul, they got a pH. It said the Zorja struggled to come out of dormancy this year, so did a soil test. pH is acidic, 5.3. Applied lime. Any other suggestions?
No, not really. I mean, 5.3 ain't bad where I'm at.
Yeah, and Michael, Zorja everywhere in the southeast this year struggled to come out of dormancy just with the winter we had. You know, everything started coming out of dormancy in February, and then it got cold, real cold in March, and that just threw everything back. I mean, I saw it all performing bad this spring. I know Zorja was driving everybody crazy. Paul, you about to have to run?
Got you in a minute.
Okay. All right, well, then I'm going to go ahead and start winding this down. Thank you, Paul, for being on here today. I sure do appreciate it, sir.
Thanks everybody for watching this.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody, for watching it. I'm going to try and run through this real quick and see if there's anything else. Real quick, Paul, how'd you get into lawn care?
I needed the money. No, it's just something I've always really enjoyed and wanted to do, and I just kind of had the opportunity and started doing a little bit on the side, and it just kept growing.
Do you have a Big Green Egg or a Komodo Joe?
I looked at buying one or the other, and I thought about it, and I'm home about 3 hours a week, so it made a lot of sense to buy a $1,000 grill that takes all day to cook something on. So I have not pulled the trigger on any new grills yet.
I'm going to flow through some of this. Yes, Polo Fields, it's okay. Turflawn Ester has triclopier in it. Yes, that's one of the best products for wild violets. Yes, you can mix Turflawn with Speed Zone. Is glyphosate foliar only? Yes, it is foliar only. Using Pylex and Turf Ester to kill suppressed Bermuda low 90s in cool season. When? I would start 6 to 8 weeks before you plan on overseeding. What rate to run fluazepop? Whatever the label rate says. I don't know it off the top of my head. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that's got it as far as the questions are concerned. One more question: humic acid versus biochar, two totally different things. So kind of hard to explain in 20 seconds what the difference is, but there's lots of content out there about it that you can probably look for. Jason MT, I've done a few videos about it. Any danger in applying propiconazole and azoxy in the heat of the day, both at curative rates? Yes, propiconazole is dangerous by all means. Can you use SLPGS in combination with PGR? What would the result be? I have no idea what SLPGS is, Matt Martinez. Do you know what it is?
No, I was just thinking the same thing. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't either. All right, everybody. I appreciate y'all tuning in today. Big thank you, Paul, for being here also.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see y'all next week. Y'all have a good one.